Right, I have cleaned up the first set of parts and I'm just having a play with the fit, and this part in the middle is causing me a little bit of grief, and it's because I'm not sure that I fully understand how it goes. Well, I mean, I do understand how it goes. The instructions are clear, but the feet of it are sort of angled, and I haven't worked out if I've got it in the right way or not. So it can go in that way, in which case it leans forward quite a bit, or it could go in that way, in which case it leans forward a little bit. So that's what I'm just trying to work out, because it has to connect into this little putting some plastic magic in here. It's a little bit slower drying, just fractionally than Tamiya's extra thin, and it's also just that bit better at melting through the paint, and we've got a bit of primer down in here. So now that's in place, I'm going to pop this into place. You can see having that bit of movement is just helpful. I think that's the wrong way around. Let's try that. Got a real problem. So you can see this edge here, this point, it's just catching. Whichever way I put it around, it's just catching. So I'm actually going to just take it down a little bit. I don't want to change the shape, just want to change the height of it. Right, so this last one to go in, I'm going to just change position so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. So there's a little tab there that has to locate at the front into a slot, so we get that in place first. Oh, see, that's gone in lovely now. So once you've got those first two parts in, the last one will just slot in. Got to say, flipping fiddly. But there we go. All's well that ends well. Right, so that is done. I'm going to do the other one off camera because it'll just be a little easier for me. And then we're sort of at the point of painting that, so I need to think about what I want to do next. Well, I've just finished painting in the interior green in the undercarriage areas and the Bombay. I've done it, as you can see, with a paintbrush rather than spraying it. And the reason that I've done that is I want a bit of an uneven surface on the green. So when we weather it, it just looks a little bit more uneven. It's the same process that we did in the cockpit, and for me it works really well. I like that process. What I did notice is that when these engine cowling go on, you can see some of the upper surface, which is why I've expanded the the green out. So after the first coat I did a test fit and you could see a bit, so I've extended it out. Once this is dried, we can weather it in the same way as we've done before with a brown wash, and then we can go in and dry brush all these little ribs and frames in the same way. We'll do that inside these because these haven't been dry brushed as yet. Then that can all go together and we're ready for masking off. Now I'm going to be cutting this part up eventually and using it. So you use the two outside edges, but for now it makes a great little mask when we're painting the rest of the aircraft. So yeah, that's where we're up to. The paint that I'm using, it's strange. This interior green, it's like the ingredients of the paint don't want to bond together. There's a lot of surface tension, and what I find is, if I show you here, we'll wipe this off in a sec anyway, when you sort of painting, it's separating all the time and you have to go over it loads of times like that to break down the surface tension before you get anything that's going to stay in one place. And it seems to get worse once you've got primer down. It's a very strange paint system, and when you put MIG thinners in MIG paint, it sort of separates a bit as well. It's a very, very weird paint. But I'm moving away from MIG to ICM paints. I have MIG paints to use up, and I have Humbrol paints to move up, but generally I'm now going towards ICM for my paint system of choice. Right, with the painting done, I'm just cleaning up the surface where we've got some overspray and bits and pieces that I don't want to get in the way of the paint surface for the future. So I'm just cleaning it up with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. You can see how that just takes that back nicely, just a little bit. Now I see a lot of people make this mistake, so I use rubbing alcohol quite a bit, and I'm not sure that we've ever really talked about it on the channel. But I see a lot of people buy 99% alcohol for cleaning their models, and that's a mistake because the cleaning action of rubbing alcohol is improved when it's mixed with a little bit of water. So actually you want to have somewhere between 70 and 80% in your rubbing alcohol. So I tend to use the 70. I find that cleans better. There's a sort of myth that if you've got 99% alcohol it's going to clean even better. No, it's just going to evaporate quicker. 99% is great for, you know, sterilizing wounds and that sort of stuff, but we're just cleaning plastic, so we don't need that additional alcohol. And you can see at 70% this is bringing off. This primer's been down 2 weeks and it's just lifting off. So it's a great way of tidying up your model prior to a build, which makes sure that you've got a nice smooth and clean surface ready for priming. So I'm just going to take that back. We'll finish that process when we put down the engine nacelles and we know where the outside edge is. So yeah, don't make that mistake of getting 99% and think you're getting the best stuff you can, because you're not. You want 70% for cleaning plastic parts. I'm just going to put in the Tamiya brown panel line accent. It's a quick, efficient way of getting a wash in there. I don't need to make my own. And we've got quite a big open space, so I can be fairly liberal with it. And because we've got a big open space, I'm actually going to paint it over the whole thing, and then, like we've done before, you see that there? That is why I'm not a fan of using the brush in the pot, and I tend not to as a general rule. However, when you've got a big area to fill, it can be quite convenient. So you just have to be careful because you get it leaching up underneath the brush extender there. So we'll go in with a little bit of white spirit or similar and enamel thinners or something, and just clean that up in a minute or two. Managed to spill it. Right, ready for the dry brushing bit now, and like before, I've lightened up the interior green, this time with, I can't remember what I used last time, this time with a bit of light wood. I might have used the same last time, I can't remember. So we've given it a good mix. I'm using a stippling brush for this. It's just, it's got splayed out quite thick bristles, so it's great for dry brushing. So just make sure we've got not much on there, and then we can get going. Actually, more on there than I'd like. There we go. And we just lightly go across. And start bringing out that detail. It also gives us an opportunity to tone down the wash. There we go, that just pops that detail out. And the more you rub over it, the lighter it gets, so it's up to you how you want that to look. And of course you could just do it with the straight original interior green colour if you just wanted to restore the colour a bit. But I find if you make it a bit lighter, it gives you an opportunity to do a bit of fading. Got things like ribs, it's always good to go in both directions across them so that you're highlighting both edges. If you're just going one direction, you've only highlighted one, which you might want if you're trying to depict sunlight in one direction or something like that. Doing the round motion just blends anything in. So if you've got any streaks or tide marks or stuff like that, you can often sort of blend them in doing that. yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That's sort of looking used and grimy and aged. So that's sort of the look we were going for. So happy with that. Okay. As always, less is more when it comes to weathering. So don't think, oh, I'm really enjoying this and overdo it. It is easy to ruin what you're doing. I'm just going around now making sure I've not missed any areas that really need a little bit, and I've not got any real strong dark areas of wash that haven't been toned in. I'm happy with that. So we can next job install our engine pods, and then once we've done that, we can get it the right way around. We can then go back round and clean up any of the fuselage. I think I've got those on the wrong way. They don't fit particularly well unless they're on the right wing, and then they fit really, really well. Nope, had them right the first time. Right, anyway, I'm going to clean up and then I'll come back to you. So just going to glue this first one in, and then I'm going to talk you through the fit of the second one. And I mustn't forget to get some glue in the top element here. So the fit against the wing, underwing, is really nice. Not quite 100% perfect on the top. So first thing we need to do is there's actually a little mould seam that we need to remove. We've got to remove the paint from this anyway. But what you get on this outside edge, you get a slight lip, and on the inside edge here, you've got a little seam that starts on the edge and then slowly moves in about 1/4 millimetre. If you do not remove those, you're going to find you have gaps that you're going to have to fill. So save yourself a load of heartache, filling gaps and sanding and stuff, and just go round. As we take the paint off this to help us get a nice bond with our liquid poly, we're going to take the seam off in that process. Always when you're doing this process, nice and careful. What you don't want to do is over scrape and then create a gap because you took too much material away. And as we come up here, there's a little step in the plastic part, and we need to make sure that that is nice and crisp and that we've not softened the step with a collection of paint. So that's the seam gone. Just take the paint back to that edge and then just run along the edge of that step and make sure it's nice and crisp. It's becoming more and more important to do this process with modern kits as the engineering gets better with CAD and the tolerances reduce. Then something as simple as a couple of layers of paint can really get in the way of the fit. So it's not just about having clean surfaces for your glue, because that doesn't always matter. Depends on what glue you're using and what have you. but increasingly you need to have clean surfaces because the kit's tolerances dictate that. Right, there's a much more pronounced step on one side than the other, but there is a step on both sides. Right, I'm happy that that's cleaned up now. So we can now test fit that. Make sure that you get it pushed down over that bit correctly. We're not putting any glue on that, so it doesn't matter about cleaning that up. You can do if you wish. But yeah, I've got a nice tight fit there on the upper wing, on the lower wing I should say. Then there is a little bit of play, so you've got to make sure that you eyeball it right. But I'm finding that the top bit of the wing here is just sitting ever so slightly proud, so there'll be a bit of gentle sanding to do before we glue the part on top. So I've got it held in place nice and tight. Run my liquid glue in. So that should capillary in nicely all the way around now, so I don't have to worry about going the full length of the seam or at the join. There we go. Doesn't feel like we have a need for clamping, so I'm not going to. This one is now dried and on, and it looks good. So a little bit of seam clean up. I wanted to do that in place as part of the cleanup of the of this anyway. So that's built up as much as I'm gonna want to take it ahead of painting, I think. I don't know whether I'm going to put the engines on or not, to be honest. I think we build the engines up next and we'll make that sort of decision then. It depends on how easy it's going to be to mask it. But for now, we can mask this quite easily with that. That just plops into place. So we've only got those to mask. And then of course we've got to put our glass in place. So I'm happy that we're going in the right direction with this now. So that completes, let's get my pencil, step 44 and 45. So if we flip over the page, next thing is to install this. I'm guessing it's an air scoop of some type. So like I say, I want to reduce this area down a little bit first and possibly a little bit of filling in that seam, and then we're on there. Now I need that glue to dry, so we're going to put that to one side and we can get going on the engine. So we've already painted the insides of the cowling. But what we might be able to do, this outside ring is like a gunmetal colour. So we might be able to paint all this up because, what's that? Black. Yeah, so black gunmetal. So we might be able to paint all this up and then mask that ring off, covering all of that, allowing us to paint this with the rest of the aircraft, which would be a nice thing to be able to do if we can. And then we can always add the exhaust later after it's been painted, and then blend that in. So I think that is the way we're going to go. So let's have a look at the engine parts next. Right, so cut off the parts that we need ahead of building up the engines. So like I say, we've already painted these on the inside, which will save us some time later on. And And what I've done is I've separated the parts into two little bags because the engines appear to be handed. They've got different numbers, and there might be something. They don't look handed, but the numbers suggest that they are. So I'm the part numbers. So I'm keeping them separate, so I know that I've got the right parts. So we'll build them up one at a time. So my process starts. We've removed the parts from the sprue. So my process starts with then just trimming back the nubs. Now, I call them nubs. Some people call them nibs. I don't know if there's an official term for them or not. So whatever they are, they need removing. But I've always called them nubs for as long as I can remember. Yeah. Right, and trim those down. We've got 3 on there. Okay, just be careful because there is a bit that is supposed to stick out there. That is supposed to be there. Don't accidentally cut that off. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get into those. So what we're going to use is one of these. It's a Matador from Infini, and basically you have adhesive abrasive paper that you stick onto this photo etch tool. So it's really handy. If you've not got one of those, then get yourself an emery board and just cut a strip off so that you can get in between this gap, which is how I've always done it. The downside of these is that you've only got 2 sides and you've got a range of different grits, so you've got to choose which grits you're putting on. And I generally went with coarser grits on the narrow ones. Nearly there, I think. Not quite. There, and then I'm just going to flip over and go on the less coarse side and polish that up. So that's what I'm going to do with that one. I'll do the rest of that off camera. With this one, we've got the seam on these ends, and the easiest way of doing that is to get yourself a flat emery board and just whip them off. So go with this one, which is wider than the part, so that's fine. And take that nub down as well. The ends won't get seen, so don't worry too much about it, but you need to remove your nubs and your seam just to make sure you've got a nice fit, because I reckon these are going to be pretty much in contact. So if you leave the seam on, you might find that you're struggling to fit the part. It's a bit tight, then it doesn't sit correct, and so on. So it's worth the moment just to remove the seam to ensure that you've got perfect fit. So that is, well, one more. I was going to say it's done, but there's one left. Right, so that's that done. But we do have the seam running down the side, so I'm going to use one of my seam cleaners because I've got the tool. Why wouldn't I use it? I know most people don't have these. I haven't seen them for years, but Last time I saw them was at model show, I think in Bolton, and that was before the pandemic. I haven't seen them anywhere since, but you can make these out of a bit of photo etch, or if you've not got them, use the back of a knife blade, the tip of a knife blade, just to get in and take it out. All you've got to do is scrape it up. It's going to be less visible on the indents. You're just taking it off the raised edges. And again, it's a quick job. We're painting this black, so don't worry too much, because it's not going to be easy to see. But the moment you put a little wash in there, it's the moment it'll pop out and wave at you. So we do want to just get that seam off. So it's a little bit time consuming, and it can make your hand hurt after a while. So if you need to have a break, go and do something else, come back to it. That's the way to do it. Just bite-sized chunks, but that is done sufficiently for this process. So we've also got these parts to clean up, so let's take one of those off. Now, if you can't get in with your sprue cutter, then that's when your knife skills come in. So just get in there, get as close as you can, take it out, and then just pare it back so you're nice and smooth. And you can always get in with a bit of emery board if you need to and finish it off. What you don't want is any lumps on this bit, because it's the bit that's going to rotate, so this also has to be nice and smooth. Get your seam off. Right, there we go, got the nub off the end. So that fits into there like so, and is free running, so that's okay. That's good. Then we've got this part which goes behind it. So we've got a little bit of clean up to do here where the nub is, and they put the sprue gate right next to a raised lump that has to be there, so you can't go in and sand it off the way you'd like to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go in sideways. So I'm using a 400 quite coarse here, and just very slowly, small actions, take it down level with the top of the part. There we go. And then using your scraping tool method, whatever it is, we're then just going to go over that and make sure that it's in line, and then carry on round because we've got a seam. And again, although it's a very, very slight seam, it could interfere with your fit, and we don't want that. And that gets me to the next nub. Now I can do this one better. So the way to do it, if you can, on a circular surface, is I'll show you side profile so you can see, is you go from the top and then move the front tip of your emery board up and away. And what that does is it takes down from the middle of the nub backwards, and then you can move up a little bit to deal with the top of the nub. And that helps you get a perfect circular surface and not put a flat on. See, it doesn't need much just to tidy this up. And the top of that part we mustn't forget. Okay, so if we've got a seam there, we've got a seam underneath. And again, this will be visible. So we've got to get in, again, put tip of a knife blade will do it, then go down the piston housing, across the bottom of the ring, back up the piston housing. There we go, and that's cleaned up, and only another, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to do. So I will do them off camera. Now, when you've cleaned it up, if you've got a little bit of sort of fluffy plastic scrapings, you can, like I have, which is sometimes difficult to get out, just go around with your liquid poly, and anything that you can't get rid of, you can just melt away, and that tidies it up and gets it nice and sharp. So that is that bit done. So we can test fit that now. So that goes on the back there. There's a little location lug which lines up with a little indent. There you go, and then you can see you've got your engines like that. So that is nice. And then that then goes through this ring here. We've not cleaned it up yet. Like so. And fits like that. So those parts are ready. Clean up on this is nice and simple. But because it's an outside surface, I'm going down to a 1000 grit just to clean up the nubs off the edge. There we go, nice and smooth, and then we can polish that up. Just going to use a polishing sponge, and you'd never even know that there'd been a sprue gate there. The last parts to clean up to complete the engine part of the kit is the cowlings. Now, they're interesting, these cowlings. They're quite well designed with you can see there's a little hole just, I'll point it out, just there, a little slot, and that is what this part here locates into, to make sure that when you insert all this together, it actually fits really nicely. And all these parts are keyed, so you can only build it correctly. So anyway, first thing is just to trim down our nubs. We'll do it on all 4 nubs at the same time. And then I'm going to go in with 1000 and just take that back to the plastic. And when you can't see that nub anymore, you get like a white witness. When that white witness is gone, you know that you're completely smooth. So I've done that with 1000, and then gonna drop down to 2000 and go in the opposite direction. which is just going to smooth it a little bit. Yeah, and then we can do a 3000, and we won't need to go any further than that. I'm not even pressing, I'm just gently rubbing on the surface, and that just polishes it up. And then once we get, yeah, that's good. Once we get some primer on there, you'll never know, and that's exactly what we're looking for. At this point as well, we also want to clean up any seams and paints on the mating surfaces, just to make sure that we've got a nice, lovely fit. So I'm just going to scrape that away. I prefer to scrape than to sand, because the paint can clog your sanding sticks up something fierce. There we go. That's that side done. And where the primer's gone down, I can see that there is a little seam, and we're squaring up the edges. Right, brilliant. So I'll carry on, get that done, and then we're ready for painting these parts up. Well, actually, I've got to do the other side as well. So now the engine nacelles have dried in place, I can just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, like we did before, and just go around and clean up the plastic around the outside, just making sure we've got no lumps or bumps that are going to cause any problems with the surface finish. And you can see the enamel wash there that we put down the panel liner. We can take that out as well at the same time. Being careful not to catch anything that we don't want to take the paint off. There you go, we can clean that up nicely. And then we're ready for priming it. Right, with the engine, well, so I say engine nacelles, they're actually sort of the nacelles for the landing gear, really, aren't they? Just here where they've gone in, the fit is really great, but here we have a little lip where this surface is higher than that surface, and that goes right across here. We've got parts to fit in a minute, and we'll have a look at the fit of those in a moment. But what I want to do is just bring down the little step there. So I'm going to blend this area down so that it meets with that is the plan. So you want something, you don't want to do that with a sponge. It's too much hard work, because the sponge is going to very slowly take away and keep that little step there. You want to be able to take the step out, so you need something hard like an emery board or equivalent, where you can quickly get the step down and then blend it all in afterwards. Now I'm trying not to, it sounds all dramatic, there's a step. There's not much in it. I'm just being a bit of a perfectionist. You know, that's pretty much all it needs. And once you've got it blended in, you can then go to a sponge and just reduce the filing marks. There you go. So that feels a lot better. So, like I say, there's not a lot of difference in the step, but it just helps, especially when you paint it. You don't want to be seeing a lump there. So we've got it tight all the way around, and that's where we end up. So it will make a difference. If you don't do this, when you paint it, it won't look right. Right, there we go. So I'm going to do the same on this side, and then we'll have a look at fitting. There's two parts that go into there, and we need all that to be nice and smooth as well. Yeah, good. Right, I have the parts all cleaned up. So these, if you're following this build, it's step 46, 47, and parts E15 and 16. So what we need to actually do is fit the front part, which is E16, first, get that in its location point, because the way these parts are shaped, there's a sort of a little curve there, and the top goes over the top of the part, so this has to go on behind it. So you're going to have to put that in. I'm going to try and dry fit it, though it's a little tricky. And then that's going to have to go in behind it, which looks like it will happen. And then there's going to be quite a bit of cleanup to be done afterwards. So let's get that in place. So I'm just going to plop it into position. I'm not using the quick setting on this, just ordinary extra thin. And then what I want to do is just push it right to the front, because actually the shape, because there's a join in these parts here, has a slight point to it. And if I just push that forward, we might just fill that with a little bit of liquid melted plastic and save us some time. Because once we've primed this, we'll be able to see all the little issues we've got. Right, so making sure that that is flat down in the correct position. So that's on. But that doesn't want to fit then. So if you put that in end first, and then push it down, right. It's quite a tight fit is the issue, rather than it doesn't fit. Right, let's get that glued in as well. There's quite a gap there. So you can just feel with your finger when things are popped in right and not. Giving it all a bit of a shove. Right, so what's happening is it either sits nicely at the bottom and then sits a bit proud at the top, or it sits nicely at the top and sticks out. Well, it's easier to sand that smooth, so that's what we're going to do. Yeah, actually doesn't fit quite so well. So on this one, I think what I'm going to do is just take this back a little bit, just a touch. See if that improves the fit. So we'll do the same process. Drop this one in first. Yeah, that's fit much better. So taking just a little, you saw it, just a few swipes made a difference. It's still not perfect though. Right, so definitely a bit of filling and clean up to do on those, because we want them to end up being nice and smooth and looking like a single cowling, and at the moment they definitely don't. I think also there's we've tidied up the step on each side here, but we didn't do anything with the inside, so that's making that sit a bit proud, I think. But it's easy to sort, so we'll just let that harden, and then, so if we cross that out, because clean up something we need to do, that brings us to that which we started. I've got to be honest, we've got these built up and done, but they now need painting. So we're going to do those as separate. So we can say that we've done these two steps, 48, 49, but we can't build up 50 and 51 yet, or do 52, or do 53. That's just a carry on of the same. So we've done 54 and we've done 55, and yeah, we've got to paint those parts up before we can install them. Well, I want to clean them up first, so, and we need those to dry. So actually we're on clear parts and canopy next then in my process. So let's crack on with that. Hi, and thanks for watching. You can support the channel by hitting the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you don't miss any content that I put out. Model Kit Stuff is a self-funded channel, and I don't do membership or Patreon or buy me a coffee. So if you'd like to further donate to the channel and ensure the cameras keep rolling and the content keeps coming, then you can consider making a donation through my PayPal. You'll find a link to that in the text below. You enjoy your modelling, and I'll see you soon.